Man, it's Saturday. Got a lot of work ahead of me still. I got the bay most of the way painted. Got a few spots I gotta touch up. Not sure if I really like the barbecue paint, but it looks pretty okay. Kind of more for the meme, I guess. It's ready for the next time it catches on fire. Before I show what the bay looks like all painted, and we move on to swapping things around on the engine, I'll show you the short videos I took throughout the week prepping the bay and painting it. Nothing too crazy, just a couple clips here and there as I went through it. I spent maybe a half hour to 2 hours depending on the day out here getting it all ready for paint. Really made me appreciate how much time and effort I put into the 96's engine bay, because this did not come out anywhere remotely close to as nice as the 96. But it's not about making a show quality car, it's about making a car that runs based off of a concept and a goal I set for myself. So we will see. So here's those clips, and we'll get back to it when they're done. All right, well, another beautiful day. Just got off work. Probably just gonna do a little bit after work every day and bust out a lot of it on Saturday. Hopefully have most of it ready to go. So probably gonna start removing all the stuff I don't need in the bay. Miscellaneous brackets. Try to get all this melting gunk out of here. Get off this tetanus strap. Probably pull the vacuum booster off. Just get everything ready for a quick sand and paint. So I removed a lot of the stuff that we didn't need. Moved the brake lines forward. I don't know if I'm going to replace those. I might, once we know it's going to work. The rest of that stuff will have to wait until I'm able to move the 96 out. Then I can get into the dash and start pulling everything out from there. Get the rest of that. But for now, I'm going to start off with a 120 grit flat disc to get all of the paint and rust off. This is how I did the one on, or the bay in the 96. Get as much as I can tonight. I don't know how much longer I'm going to go. Alrighty, so I got my mask on right now, so it might sound funny. But I flat disc this side. This is what I did with the 96 when I did the engine bay. I forgot how long it took me to do that. So I wire wheeled this side and I got a lot of the soot off. It used to look like it was painted black. Now it's more of a bare metal primer, chassis paint to the car. So I think I am going to do a little bit more tonight. Just kind of do it through the weekend. Hopefully get it painted by Friday. And get ready to put it together, or at least drop the motor in and mock it up on Saturday. We'll see. So probably going to do a little bit more while wheeling tonight. Police up and over there and some of the crevices. Try to get some of the surface rust out of these corners here. If I primer over it, it's not the end of the world. Again, it doesn't have to be pretty, it just has to work. Alrighty, so now it's Thursday. I got the pay all primered up. I might hit a few spots. It's not the best job at all, but it should work. At least it looks better than bare steel and rust, I guess. I got a few spots. Let's see if it will focus in on that. A few spots that I'll have to knock down and cover up, but for the most part, I don't really care. As long as I can get it painted, we can start moving on to putting the motor in. That's all that matters. So I will get back when I get this thing painted in black. It's not the best, but it will do. It's kind of got like a gray matte kind of finish. I feel like you can still see some of the primer through it. But I don't know. I freaking laid the coats on, so it could just be the way it is. It is barbecue paint, and it sure looks like a barbecue. So I'm just gonna probably spray that with whatever random black paint I got laying around. And freaking get that rebolted up. Get the brake lines out of the way, and then we'll go on to seeing what all needs to be swapped off of the 3.8 that came out onto the Super Coupe motor out. I got the engine mounts and the header bolts soaking in some WD-40. No PV blaster, unfortunately. Should have thought that part through, but hopefully we can get those out without anything breaking. Kind of just vacuuming and cleaning and looking it over. I took off the AC. I don't know if we're going to be able to run it without the AC on there. As far as belt routing goes, maybe a really shallow to make that work. So I might actually have to go back around the AC pulley, down, up, down, and around. We'll see. They'll look into it some more. Maybe I'll just make a delete pulley for this and hope that it doesn't flex, since, well, it shouldn't. I don't know. We'll find out. Still need the water pump. Got this thing soaking. Get everything taken off of that. I forgot that I had the big light, so I turned it on for this video. Helps me see, but I got the vacuum booster back in its spot. I haven't bolted it up yet. I got it painted gloss black. I just misted it. It's not perfect, but it looks better than when it was rusty. The paint I chose, I'm not going to clear it. Unfortunately, it is weak. I swear I barely tapped it with the brake booster over there and it scraped it right off, so we'll see what happens. Might be one of those things where we touch it up every once in a while. Touch it up before we take it out type deal. But we'll see. This thing, I know I haven't really done a full walk around. It's fairly clean. I pulled the dash pad. Unfortunately, if you look up here, it's all melted. So I'm going to have to, at some point, replace the dash. The heater box and everything's got to go. It's all melted. Hopefully there's not too much of the factory harness back there. It is a, car to car, early 80s, so there's not too many electronics. It looks like under the dash on this side. Actually, let me grab a light. Spherical light. Under the dash here is very, very clean on the driver's side. You don't see very many Mustangs without a bunch of wiring that has been taken care of or redone. There's extra brackets that the 96 doesn't have, which was kind of weird to work around. It seems like there's a little less space under here as well as far as getting to the brake booster. But hopefully I can reuse a lot of the wiring underneath here as far as interior and lighting goes. I'd like to retain the stock turn signals and freaking lights, and it'd be nice to try to get that thing to work as well. And then run the separate harness from the Super Coupe and splice it into the factory harness. Biggest issue is a lot of this is all cut up, messed up. A lot of it was melted. So what I'm going to end up doing is seeing what goes to what. Some of this is probably just main power, which I can use to splice into the other. And then the rest of this is going to be either for the DuraSpark, the turn signals, the headlights. We'll have to pull up a diagram and see what everything goes to and what we can get rid of. Man, some of these plugs have seen better days. All right. So a bit of a dilemma, or at least not 100% sure what headers I should run in what order. So from the looks of it, this is too far of an angle down. It may actually hit the K-member or get stuck in between the trans and the K-member. Now these ones, they come at an angle and allows them to make it straight through at this angle, and the header that's on the Super Coupe motor puts it at this angle. I might just put the mount on it and drop it in and see where it's at and hope for the best. Because another thing we'll run into is on the driver's side of the Super Coupe motor, you have your O2 sensor in the manifold. On the passenger side, it does not have a port on the manifold for the O2 sensor. It actually puts the O2 sensor in the downpipe. So I'm not sure if I want to take these off, and on the stock Mustang header, it has these ports, or these block offs of the casting, probably where they filled it in, or put a bung or something to fill it up with the cast. But I believe I could drill and tap that for the O2 sensors. Don't know if I want to do that. It's kind of one of those things where I just want to put the motor in and I'll have to pull it back out. But at the same time, I don't want to have to fight trying to run an exhaust on this. I'm not 100% sure what I'm going to do quite yet. I'll have to think about it. On this side, same thing. It's got that block off. If I really wanted to, I think I could drill it out and tap some threads into that for the O2 and run it that way. This one comes more at an angle, hopefully the right angle. That one is almost straight down though. So if we look over here, let's see, I'll have to measure. Oh, I guess the light's having a seizure. Alright, so I'm going to have to measure from the engine mount point back to where the port to the header goes out and see if it's at the right angle. Another thing I got to worry about as well is whether or not it's going to interfere with the starter. Now the transmission's not sitting where it would sit. It's dangling. I do not recommend doing it this way. This is the you don't give a shit way. But I'll get that jacked up and lined up for when we put the motor in. The whole car's got to come up anyways. My jack is dying. You got to pump fast enough for it to not drop down. So we'll see. I might have to get another jack here pretty soon. That actually pumps up pretty good. That little one's seen some use. So we'll see. But for now, I got the mounts and the headers off of this one. I'm going to pull the flex plate and the trans gasket off right now. And then we'll get this thing set down on a tire, probably in the corner back there. And then we'll hook it up to the engine hoists. And maybe we'll start mocking it up in the bay today. That way I can get this engine hoist folded back up and out of my way and have actual space to walk around. After this is bolted into the motor, we're going to start on the wiring part of it. Or this is bolted up to the transmission, excuse me. We're going to start going through the wiring harness stuff. All next week I'm going to just go through and do some research, kind of lay the harness out, see where I want to go. There's some factory grommet points on the firewall, so I should be able to run the ECU in the car. I don't know if I want to pull the dash right away or if I want to just try to get everything ran to where it's got to go. And basically, I just got to decide how much effort I want to put into this. A few other things I want to do at some point. I'd like to 5-lug swap this. I got a spare set of wheels from my 96 that would look freaking killer on this. Which means I need a 8/8 axle, and then I need struts, spindles, pretty much the brakes from an SN95. To swap the front over, the passenger side brake line, or brake hose I should say, the rubber one, and the caliper, and most of the suspension's cooked from the fire, so that all has to be replaced anyway. So finding a parts car that has those parts would be very nice. That being said, I don't want to spend $1,500 on somebody's clapped out, rusted out freaking parts car just for a few parts on it and have a basically just a non-rolling chassis sitting in my driveway for God knows how long. So it's it's going to be one of those things where if the price is right and parts come up, we'll probably do it. If not, just getting it running and then sitting on it from there would be good enough for me. I don't know how far we want to take this. As far as, let's see here, the kickdown rod for the transmission, I'm going to have to figure out what to do with that. I do not believe this transmission is going to kick down without that hooked up to something. As far as where the throttle body is, according to the shift rod, it will be on the opposite side. So I'm going to have to come up with some bracket with the new throttle cable that pulls both the kickdown rod and the throttle body. Either that or maybe a vacuum actuator that keeps it from downshifting on while it's under vacuum, and then when it's zero vacuum or positive pressure, it should kick down. I don't know. That's something I'm going to have to figure out. Again, not expecting this transmission to last. I bet you I'll go out and rip on it. Hopefully a day or two out of it, but I bet you when we go out and rip on it, the transmission's just going to get smoked, or it's going to push through the torque converter, and I'll have to go find a 5.0 trans anyways. 5.0 trans would be pretty nice. It'd be pretty cool to do like a J-mod, or actually spend some money on a shift kit if we end up going that far with this. Maybe get one of those cool automatic shifters. I always wanted one of those. But we'll find out what ends up coming of this thing. It all depends on whether or not we can even get the thing running. This is 100% seized as far, or the water pump is, and I am not going to be able to use the one on the old motor. The ports are just not in the right location. Might as well just buy the new pump. I bet you I can get a pretty cheap one on Amazon. Oh, I don't know if I want to go completely cheap, because I also don't want to waste money on buying the same part twice. But we'll see. Maybe at some point we'll take off the blower and intake pipes and the valve covers and paint them all up, make the thing look pretty cool. But it's only cool if it's going to run, so I got to get through and clean up all these pulleys. I don't know if I want to wait until we're able to crank it and then hold the wire wheel on this while it's rotating everything, or if I'm going to sit here with my drill and my wire wheel and do it right away. Pretty sure it needs a new alternator, but we're going to see what ends up coming to that. Got the old 3.8 on the ground, the Super Coupe one hanging on this. Got the original headers on there still. And I got the old 3.8 Mustang engine mounts on there. I had to modify this one. There was a tang. See if I can get my finger in there. There's a tang that stuck out and interfered with this, so I cut it off and ground down the side of it and then whacked this with a hammer. I found out that this engine didn't have dowels in it, so I had to figure out how to pull the dowels out of the 3.8. Nothing I had was working as far as vice grips go, so what I ended up doing is grabbing Old Faithful here and notching the sides of the block, and then grabbing a screwdriver and a hammer and knocking them out. Which, thank goodness, didn't even notice that. I was gonna grab some whatever bolt fit, forced it in and cut it to length. So this is much nicer this way using the original dowels. So next step is to drop it in and figure out what I missed or what I forgot. I'm just gonna slap that flex plate on and this trans gasket, and we'll see what happens. Hopefully the next video I take is with it in the car. Together, well, all together. It's mounted in there. It's hooked up to the trans via 4 flex plate bolts and 0 bell housing bolts. And the motor mounts aren't bolted in yet, so but it ain't going nowhere. Huge pain in the butt, but we got it. Thankfully, my lady was here to kind of help me shimmy it in or lift and lower the frickin' engine hoist and rotate the motor when I needed. But it looks pretty good in there. It's that's the easy part. The hard part's next, and that's making everything work. It's also the expensive part is next, is getting everything to make it to work. We'll see. It's pretty cool. Looks like this is going to clear. I was going to put the battery over here because the factory bolt holes, let's see if I can rotate this here. The factory bolt holes are right here. But these engines and the SN95s, the battery trays on the other side. So to make it easier, I'm just gonna, you know, either get some nuts to weld on over there or just put nuts and bolts through it. And just have to put a wrench down there if I ever need to remove the tray. We'll see. And then I'd be able to run an intake over here. Maybe I'll do what's done on the SN95 is there's a hole cut out from the factory over here, kind of like this one. I believe it's a little lower down, and that's where the factory air box would draw cold air from here. And you can get a kit where the cold air intake goes through that port and your filter's down there. Maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll just put the filter in this corner here. I don't really care, honestly. It just has to work, as I've said multiple times. But seeing it in here kind of makes me want to make it look cooler, or prettier I should say, and get everything all cleaned up. Once it works, and if it works, and if it lasts, and we end up keeping it, I'd like to get the blower and everything rebuilt and either powder coat it or paint it myself. Make everything pop and colorful. But that's going to be a ways in the future, and that's assuming everything ends up working. So I'm done for the day. But this is what she looks like. So that about does it for this week. Maybe I'll work on it a little bit tomorrow and button things up a little bit more as far as getting the trans bell housing bolts in and the flex plate nuts tightened down and the engine mount nuts tightened down, get it all secure. And then starting next week, I will start going through this freaking, let's see where we at here. That pile of crap over here just filled with harnesses, and start doing my research as far as finding what goes where, both on the factory harness in the vehicle and the harness that we got for the Super Coupe. What's really cool is the Super Coupe harness has a grommet on it. It looks a heck of a lot like the grommet that is in this corner here. Let's see. Looks pretty much the same. The ECUs on these Mustangs and the Thunderbirds were in the passenger footwell, so I might be able to mount it in a factory location or close to it. The downside is everything behind the passenger side of the dash is melted, so I'll have to pull it apart and clean that stuff out, make sure there's no wires that are going to short out when I go through the factory harness and start putting power to it again. It's been kind of a lot of fun because I don't have to care about it as much, and worst case I just sell everything and get it the heck out of my property if I don't want it. But it's kind of nice not having to really stress about making it really nice, even though I still stress about it and dislike the way it's turning out as far as for looks go. But nobody truly likes what they do, I guess. But we'll see what this ends up being like. Hopefully this video is pretty decent and the editing part of it goes well. That's the next part of today, is I'm going to crack open a cold one, freaking see if I can edit this video out and make it decent. It ended up not raining today, which is really nice, so I was able to keep the doors open and keep the 96 parked outside, which gave me a ton of room. So yeah, that will pretty much do it. If you watched the whole video, thanks for watching. It's a bit of an eyesore for now, both the car and the video. We all gotta start somehow. But we will see you next time, and hopefully we can get some more work done to this.